So the first one was I don't know if this was like last week maybe, but oh my God, which one is it? Khloe Kardashian? No, is it?
Yes,
Yeah,
Chloe, is this the picture?
the bikini picture that
Okay, well,
wasn't.
we're gonna. Yes, this was one of mine as well because I had thoughts. I had thoughts.
Yeah. So I think from my limited understanding of it, so apologies. That and was it one of her assistants posted a picture
Well,
by accident
this
to
is the
her
thing.
Instagram?
I've heard differing things
Oh,
that
okay.
she seems to say that it was like an assistant or something who hadn't been authorized to post it.
Okay.
However, the initial thing that was told to everyone, and I think some people are still sticking with this, is that the Kardashians' grandmother,
Okay.
um, MJ, had posted it to her Instagram. Just and that was like a cute little grandmother, like, oh, look at my
Ah,
grandchild, look how beautiful they are. But I'm not sure if that's true anymore, but that was what I had initially been told by the internet.
right.
Either
Yeah.
way, it
Either
was one of them.
way, it was an unauthorized picture, which I just think is like, obviously, if there's a bad photo been put on you by your friend's Instagram, and you're like, just because they look good in the picture, like I have been the recipient of that, and I've also done it as well, and I've been feeling very bad about it. And it's like, oh, sorry, I wasn't thinking in the wider context of it. So, of course, you respect someone's wishes and you take it down.
Yeah, but I think to some extent, like this is kind of off topic, but with group photos and stuff, everyone kind of does it because, like, I mean, not to sound really self-centered, but when there's a group picture with you in it, your initial thought is probably to look at yourself and not
Oh, God,
everyone
yeah.
else in the
Yeah,
picture.
every
Just
time.
sometimes, and not because you're super selfish. You're just like, oh, I look nice in this picture. I'm gonna post it, and then you post it, and someone might be like, I don't look the best in this. But to be honest, I've stopped doing it. Like I used to be, like I've never told someone to take something down. But like I've maybe like said like, oh my God, I look horrendous in this. How could you
Mhm.
post it? But then recently, I remember someone posted something to me and I looked horrendous in it, and I was just like, no, because I've grown. Anyway, moving on.
So that's the message for Khloe Kardashian.
Yes, I grew because I was just
But
looking
it's
at it and I was like,
okay. You're a
it wasn't my
multifaceted
favorite.
person.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite picture of myself. I think like maybe it was like a double chin moment or something, and I was like a bit like at first I was like, oh, and then afterwards I was like, but you look like so happy in it, like you look like you're
Yeah.
having a good time.
Good night,
Um,
or it's
yeah,
yeah,
and so
like
like I think at that point I
yeah,
was like, well, I would if people I mean, I genuinely don't think people look at pictures of you and actually unpack your insecurities, and if they do, that's more on them.
terrible people.
But then like if they look at me and they're like, oh, she has that imperfection, but they still see someone having a good time, that's okay with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
So yeah, so this bikini pic was, I don't know, posted, and it's obviously not in the pose that she wants,
But it's
and
nice, right?
yeah,
Like
it's
she
like
still, I didn't think she looked that different from ordinary, like how she ordinarily looks. You could tell the lighting wasn't the usual lighting they
yeah.
have. Like she wasn't like glowing, as they usually do. And she honestly looked more like Chloe from like years ago
Mhm.
than, which was quite, I don't know, most of the stuff I saw about the photo was quite positive. I think people felt like, oh, it's kind of nice to see one of the Kardashians just
Yeah,
looking quite
just
normal.
chilling
Yeah.
rather than, and because obviously they live that part of their life on Instagram, but it's not, you don't walk around that curated and that sucked in and that like
No.
edited all the, you can't, you don't.
Yeah. No.
And I think especially it's just really sad that when she's spoken about like all the body shaming and the pressure
Yeah.
that she's felt, that's probably why there's been such, they reacted so like largely to it. Like it was
Yeah,
a big reaction for something that some of us would be able to go, oh, but you know, you looked happy, you looked great.
exactly.
But obviously, I think the amount of surgery she's had, there's huge, huge insecurities that she's trying to address.
Yeah. And
And
I think that's why I had mixed feelings about it because, like, when I read the Instagram post that she put out, I mean, I'll get to the videos she put up, but the Instagram post with her words, I think if she just put that, I would be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, one, she does have like she should be able to say to someone, I don't want that picture on the
yeah,
internet. That's fine.
100%. Yeah.
And the stuff she said about always being branded as like the ugly sister
Mm.
and how that has impacted how she sees herself now. Yeah, like I understand that. That's kind of horrible, and people have routinely been horrible about the way Chloe looks. Like less so now,
Still,
but
but
big time in the 2000s. Like they were horrible to her, And
Yeah.
so I get that. I get where she's coming from there, and I think she makes a valid point, and that's probably the extent of the positive things I have to say on it.
Yeah.
Because there is just always the part. I mean, did you see the videos she put up? Like, it was, I think they came from a live she'd done, but they were videos that she put before the statement as well.
No, I don't think I saw the videos. I just saw what she was talking about.
Well, she put these videos of herself, like, I mean, I don't want to say they had a filter on them, but they
Um,
were very blurry, is what I will say. She stood quite a bit away from the camera and she's like kind of in posed positions.
mm,
And she's like, basically, I think she's like showing, like, actually, this is my body. Like, I never lied about my
mm,
body. My body is this. Like, it doesn't
mm.
look like that unedited picture. Like, that's the vibe I got from it. Um, and I think it just kind of ruined the sentiment a bit to me because it's like, I kind of feels like you're saying there's something wrong with that body. But then in the statement, she does say that body is beautiful too. But it just feels like it kind of goes back a bit on what she
Mm.
said. Like, oh, but actually, I don't look like that. I would never look like that.
Do you
Like,
think it's the what we were discussing last week about the Amy Schumer thing, where it was like she'd made her whole thing about being like a bigger woman or a normal sized in a
yeah.
quotation woman, and
Mm-mm.
then being like that, but I'm not body shaming people who look like that, but it's like, but that's you, like that's
Yeah.
a picture of you.
Yeah.
Why? It's like if the confrontation of pictures of you, if you're trying to
Yeah.
curate your self-image so much that your mirror's always angled, or you're
Yeah.
trying to, the insecurity, it all comes from you, but there's some things that you can't control.
And
But
like
also
that's
not wanted to appear that you're body shaming people who, but
yeah.
that's what you look like that's you.
I don't want this to come out as like me saying that like I because I'm not against people using bits of filters and editing a bit and like because to some extent doing that sort of thing I think it can be really artistic the way people
Yeah.
do it, the way they bring out colors. And I'm not against like people getting plastic surgery, but I'm against people sort of lying about it
Hmm.
and perpetuating this idea that like this is a normal body and this is what you should look like, because it's
Yeah.
not, and it just makes people feel worse. I think if you're gonna do those things, it's your decision, but I
Yeah.
think the right thing to do is to be honest about it,
Hmm.
because I get that she's saying how horrible the pressure is on her, but she is perpetuating that pressure for everyone else, like
Yeah. All her
every
millions of
yeah.
fans.
And I thought there was a really good TikTok on this by at catlady_37 who kind of critiques the live video as well, and says that Khloe like bitches about beauty standards that she and her sister create and perpetuate
Yeah.
and profit from. Like
Yeah.
Kim has Skims, which is essentially a glorified version of Spanx. Like,
Yeah.
have
For
we
the
not
modern
moved
day.
past that? And then she says you cannot rage against the machine when you are the machine. And I just think that's a really good point. Like, I
Yeah.
get what she's saying, and I think she's valid, and I think she's beautiful, whatever she chooses to look like. But I don't think that I can really sympathize with her saying how terrible the pressure is for her when she is perpetuating that pressure for everyone else and
Yeah.
profiting off people having those
Yeah.
insecurities.
Yeah. And that's bigger than it's not bigger than your own issues, because it's not to diminish how she feels, but
No,
I think
no.
it is like you've got to weigh up the imbalances, and her whole status and her position as an influencer means
Yeah.
that there will be probably more people who will not be a detractor against you, people that support you no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
They'll buy whatever product you're chucking at them because you're
Hmm.
like arch capitalists at this point.
Yeah.
You've sewed up the game of capitalism, as we said from
Yep.
like our first episode. And I just think that surely you have the money and the resources to work on your insecurities for yourself and want to put better things out in the planet
Uh,
than things that will make people feel so insecure about themselves. Like, where does that if she can self-reflect so much in
yeah.
this and acknowledge her own insecurities, then why can't she make like that extra little leap to see the wider picture? Like, why? I mean, it's more in terms of like historical stuff, but Prince Philip's dead. He died yesterday. I didn't find out until I was on the way home from work at 6 p.m.
Oh, do you want my story time
Yes,
on how
please,
I
please,
found
please.
out
How did you find out?
immediately? So, as the unemployed gal that I am, I was obviously sat in my living room watching this morning because what else? It was Eamon and Ruth say. Eamon and Ruth were talking to the man who plays Tyrone on Coronation Street, and they were they were discussing because apparently Tyrone on Coronation Street has just cheated on his long-term partner, and I'm fuming at him. I mean, I don't watch it, but I don't
Oh,
understand how he could
on
do
the
this.
soap. I thought you meant in real. The actor had
No,
tweeted.
no. How awkward would it be if they got him on this morning to be
I
like,
was
why
like,
did you
this is his apology.
imagine? No, he seems lovely in real life. So they're
Okay.
talking to him. I have no knowledge on the topic, but I'm invested. Then Eamon cuts Tyrone off. I don't know what his name is in real life, so I'm sorry to Tyrone. Cuts Tyrone off, and he's like, we've got to go to the news immediately. They've got a big announcement. And then, right, cuts to the news. I've never experienced something like this. It's ITV news, so it's already suspicious. Um, and they take ages to announce it. They're like,
What?
we've got a big announcement. Silence. It's from the royal family. And
They
then
were getting it
silence
like
for ages.
wiretapped in. You know when people do like Morse code, like do 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 do
And
do
it
coming
took
through.
ages, and I was like, because they just said from the royal family, and like obviously my instinct is Prince Philip died. He's been unwell for a bit.
Yeah.
But like because they were saying taking ages to say it, and they just said about the royal family, I was like, oh my God, it's not the Queen, is it? Because at that point in time, I did become very aware that like then I would have to live with a king, and I just didn't think I
I
could
wasn't
do
ready.
that. No, I wasn't ready. So, and then they said Philip, and I was like, I honestly, if I'd have just found out on the news, I would have been like, oh, weird. But no, like later on, if I found out, I would have been just weird. But because I saw it in real time, it was a really weird moment in my life. And then the next one, like they had to swap women on ITV because I guess one of them had done her day's work. And the woman who came to talk about it second, I swear to God, was on the verge of tears consistently. And I don't know why. Like, does she know him
God.
personally or was she just moved? But anyway, that was my story time because I've never experienced something like that, like a big,
Is it your
like,
9/11?
that seems excessive. But like, I've never really experienced when they had to like cut to the news.
Yeah. For a
And
breaking
they were like,
announcement.
yeah, I've never seen that happen live, and I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
is like I
This
lived
is
through this.
history.
Yeah, and if like there is children around me one day that are relatives of mine, I will probably tell them the story because they'll probably be writing a history like essay on it. I'll be like, oh, listen, I was trying to watch this morning, and
I
they
wanted
would
to
like
know what Tyrone's
continued
storyline was
watching.
going to
Yeah,
be.
I continued watching it because like I thought they were gonna go to Loose Women after like they'd done the news report and they never went to Loose Women. But Michelle Visage was on that day, and apparently she's got a new music video with steps, and I really wanted to learn more about that. So what did you tell?
My favorite one that I've seen on TikTok about like how they announced it was on, I think it was BBC Radio 1, where they were doing like pop anthems of the 90s
Mhm.
or like dance tracks or something. So it's this really like EDM music, like bibida-boo,
Yeah.
bibida-boo, bibida-boo, but it's not that song, but it's
It is
like
like that.
building. And then they cut the song in half before the bass drum to go, His Royal Highness Prince Philip is dead. Boom, boom, boom. And it's amazing. I
It
guarantee
is
anybody who
very
needs to go and
It's
see it.
very good.
It's like satire could never have come
Yeah.
up with it. It had to be in the moment. But the only other thing I'll say about Prince Philip's death is there's so many friggin' think pieces that people have been writing for years, obviously, that they've had
Yeah.
ready in a drawer for when he pops it. That they're all like, how he changed everything. The Duke of
Yeah.
Edinburgh Award changed my life. Oh, this testimony, how he changed masculinity. This man was so racist. So
Yeah.
racist.
They
And he
kept
wasn't.
just saying on the news like
Oh,
he had controversial views or like he was quite opinionated. I was like, that's a
and
way
he
to
was,
put
him
it.
and the Queen were related. And then
Yeah. I almost wish like they hadn't done like because for anyone who's not in the UK, it was on all the news channels. It was on like BBC
all
One,
day.
BBC Two, ITV constantly. There was nothing else on, and the
Yeah.
channels that chose to not put it on all day were kind of slated for it because some people care. But because it was on all day, like they couldn't just be like, oh yeah, he's died, it's sad for the Queen. But they had to start like going into like bits of his life. And that was when people were like, okay, that's an interesting way of putting that he was racist. And I think they could have just like said like he died. And I think if it was just like a couple and like they just announced it with no, I think it needed to be announced like separately, I guess. But like if they just kept mentioning it with the normal news and kept everything going as normal, I get that maybe they can't because of like royal protocol or something. But then people would probably just be like, yeah, like it's kind of sad for the Queen. Like I feel bad for her because like when I think of her as any person who's spent like over 70 years with another person,
Yeah.
it's gonna be sad. Like I
Yeah.
feel bad for her in
Yeah.
that respect. Like how do you live after that?
Yeah.
Like 70 years? with one person. Like, how do you go on?
Can't picture it.
Get that, because they did it all day long, constantly. You did start to be like, you are
Is
trying to,
anyone going to mention his racism? Is
yeah.
anyone going to mention it? Because
They
I
were
was
just
looking.
they were
Yeah.
just mentioning it in like clouded ways. They were like, yeah, he was a controversial figure. Definitely had a lot of opinions on things, and it was like, okay, okay, fine.
But I was like, do we get a holiday? Because the whole thing about the
Do
Queen
we?
is
I
that
still don't know
everyone
what's
has to go to
happening.
like national mourning. Like that's the plan
This
for
is
the
the
Queen. It's
thing.
like a
Yeah,
week-long thing. Everything changes, everything shuts down.
nothing
So I
happens.
was like, well, if nothing happens, then why are you still talking? Like he's an old
Yeah,
man that died.
but
Like
like,
it's sad,
but
but
is there like, do people get a day off work? Like, what's happening with that?
no, I
So
still have to
nothing
go in.
happened.
They
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
They didn't even tell us. And like when we were sitting there, I was still answering the phones with all these anti-vaxxers being like, "I don't want my
You wish
vaccine."
they'd done a big announcement.
Yeah, I wish. Or like
That
if
would have
someone I was
been.
on the phone to, they were like, oh, "Prince Philip's just died." I'll be like, "What? He's dead?"
Can
I
you
would have
believe?
preferred to have found out that way, but I
Yeah, that would.
didn't. No one even told me.
Taylor Swift released one of her re-recorded albums. I think this was released prior to it, but she released the song Mr. Perfectly Fine, which is from the vault, which I think means she had written it at the time, like in 2008, but didn't release it. So the song supposedly is about Joe Jonas, and how he was terrible in 2008, but obviously he's a grown-up now with a child. Um, but it created a lot of good memes. One was Sophie Turner put the song on her Instagram and said, "It's not a bop." Um, and if you don't know, Sophie Turner is married to Joe Jonas, so that was cute. Love Sophie Turner supporting Taylor Swift no matter what. And then also people making memes about, in the song, the person is described as so dignified in a well-pressed suit, like this really suave person. And then they're like showing pictures of Joe Jonas in 2008, which is peak Camp Rock time. So you can imagine hair plastered down on the face. Sort of like none of the suit pieces match. So he'll have like black trousers and then maybe like a white jacket and like, very Disney Channel aesthetic. And people were like, is
Scarf.
this yeah, definitely a scarf. Is this really who this song's about? This man? But you have to remember that was what we found attractive at the time, because most people did think that Joe Jonas was the most attractive Jonas brother.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did you think he was the most attractive, or were you a Nick girl?
I think it would probably been Joe if I had to pick one, but they were very much not in my
They were in
remit.
your
Like yeah,
periphery.
I hadn't seen Camp Rock
Well,
until we
what about
watched it in
High School
first year.
Musical? Oh yeah, I forgot that. What about High School Musical? Who were you, just to end this segment on? Who were you on board with?
I think I found Zeke probably the most attractive because he was kind of like
In
nerdy and
retrospect,
sweet.
yeah, because he loved creme brulee. And I always really like, because I didn't know what shipping was at the time, but I really shipped him and Sharpay. I thought
Yeah,
they were a really good match
I
together.
think
Like, she was
they were.
mean, but he was so sweet.